Is it what it is, really? It can be very dicey. You can explain for us to understand how it works in the layman's language.
Okay. Let's look at it from this point that the 56 African countries, they have individual destiny, and then they are accountable for their own decisions that they make. Right. When it comes
as sovereign states.
Sovereign states, and then with sovereignty rights. When it comes in terms of decision as to which country that they should receive visitors from, on the reasons or the underlying subject of the engagement as they are inviting or they are coming. Don't forget that the world leaders, we're talking about take the Security Council members permanent, the superpowers, the UK, the France, the Americans, and then the Chinese, and then also Russia, etc. All of them at this point are looking for which country to align themselves with. Most of them are political issues, politically related. Now there's Ukraine war. Then Ukraine, those countries that are aligned or assigned to Ukraine, the Western, they want Africa also to be in support of whatever decisions that they are taking. Some of them goes unilateral, some of them multilateral decisions, etc. But with regards to the high-profile visits that are coming here, one would ask, as Prof has already intimated, is that the first time? Answer is no. We've been having such visits. I.e., look at where and how they choose and pick the countries that they zone and then visit. You made mention of Kamala. Kamala, U.S. Vice President, was in Accra. If one would summarize it all, the pressure and then the most vocal point that she came with was the LGBTQ plus. So ironically, that should tell you that they came with certain motives, either bilateral, diplomatic, or political, or just normal world politics as such. Each one of them goes on a visit. If you see a Russian foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, is coming anywhere in Africa before until Ukraine war, business as usual, how Russia is getting closer, that is when that led to the Sochi conference or Sochi summit, calling all the Africans. Soon as Russia finished, China called them. Soon as China finished, France called them.
Right.
Soon as France
and I have a video that will play to this particular issue that you raised.
Yes, they call them, and what do? When you go to China, they give them a fine hotel. They put every gift. You can ask the leaders that I said. They put them gift in their bedrooms, etc. Just as a sign of Chinese traditional welcome. Some are phones, some are nice alcoholic package. Blah 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 blah. What are they seeking? France, the Chinese are not friends with anybody. Chinese are friends with people who wants to do business with them. That is all, because they've not been all out part of the Western system, because they were branded as communist.
So there's always an interest.
Of course. That is what I'm trying to drive at. That it has to do with an interest. Why and when they have to, which countries they choose and pick. Now when it comes back to Africa, then we should not see the continent as one country. It's supposed to be ideally and a country to be seen as one organization. Like when you hit Europe now and it's European Union, all of them come. Africa till today, regardless, let's look out. Then let us not look at OAU or ASU or any of the blocks. It is not true. When it comes to self-decision, the countries in Africa here always till today take individualistic, unilateral decision to engage with the West. That is where we find ourselves always in a different lesson. Because whilst Ghana is talking to America over this, you will find out that Algeria is also having a different discussion with the American. So the whites, let me not put it in the Western, they choose and pick strategically what they are going after every other country, because they know that the decision is not coming from the African Union, but the decision is coming from the individual country. So they can engage them privately, let me call it private talks. So all this high profile visit, it does not in any way benefit Africa as a continent. It does either benefit the individual country, which most of them, they normally handle, they do bad negotiations. But because it's handled at one country level, so whether they have the expertise, the courage, the wisdom, and then the technicality, and even the understanding. How do you think that when a Congress of American investors sit down and have a vis-a-vis engagement with Gambia, how do you think, how many experts are in Gambia in terms of, let's say, international trade, etc.? They'll bulldoze through them. But they cannot go there, they cannot go and do that in Morocco or Egypt or South Africa. So every country by country basis, they go out there with a specific need.
And we all have peculiar needs.
And they've tailored those particular needs before they do presentation. The countries will say that, well, to hell with African Union stand. I'll grab it and go my way. So if you put it collectively, it doesn't really matter the Western that they are coming, the African for grab. Yes, we are for grab because we are naive till today. We are positioning ourselves out of to show that kind of naivety. But it's supposed not to be the case, because if we have an organization that binds us together since 19...
have an organization.
Yes, of course. Does it exist?
AU. It exists. You know,
okay.
Imagine.
I didn't know about that.
We do have the African Union, which is supposed to be a pact for Africa, all the African countries.
1963
right? Spearheading the interest of the continent.
1963.
Right.
Why do you, I don't cut you short here, why do you allow, as we're talking about, Russia comes and go out there to Togo and negotiate Togo on their own strength with Togo privately and go. America comes to Ghana and negotiate with LGBTQ plus and go. Then also UK, they will go to Zimbabwe that, okay, Mugabe out. Now we can deal with you, and then negotiate with them and leave. What are we talking about here? What they've done with Togo, does it really resonate? Does it even is that the will of the African Union collectively when it comes even in the 5 regions of the African continent, the north, the east, the west, the central, and then the south? Is that how it plays in? Each of the bloc even have a different improv that they do. ECOWAS have their laws and etc. The Central African Republic, the Eastern African Republic, the SADC regions, all of them have different things.
But one would also argue that they are operating on the back of sovereignty, as stated earlier.
Exactly.
Right? It means you have the freedom to decide to go for what you want, to do whatever you want to do with the country.
Let me find out that then again, we ask the African Union their position on this subject.
Yes.
Because the fact that is UK trying to tell me and tell you and I that if somebody is on the border of Rwanda, bordering with Uganda, and the person is a Ugandan asylum seeker, now what UK is telling Ugandan asylum seekers that don't even come to London, but then enter Rwanda and seek asylum, and then it's UK government that will take care of you. It's called completely something that I can't even understand how. Then again, we claim we have African Union. Then again, Rwanda alone sat down with the UK and agreed, which in any case should not be, because who are the UK sending down? The UK has territorial areas around the world. The Pacific is there, free land. West Papua is there. Samoa Island, Nauru Island, Niue Island, Micronesia, Polynesia, we have Vanuatu, all these islands are there, free. Thank you. So if UK indeed wants a place that to put asylum seekers, one, I haven't seen the agreement, but if the agreement suggests that they will be there as asylum seekers in the pocket and the cost of the UK, then I'm suggesting that they could have taken them to the Caribbean, because already you are not only taking African asylum seekers. That is not what the subject seeks to do, to say. It's asylum seekers collectively. It means that if somebody from Poland has seek political asylum in UK, they think that that person would agree and not come to Rwanda. What is the UK talking about? The security is an issue. This is in Africa where we don't have, let's say, I'll call it, our laws are debatable, or our laws are challengeable to some extent. So if somebody is wanted in Guinea and he has gone to UK to seek political asylum, he's political refugee, then you bring him to Rwanda. Rwanda has a law of extradition between Rwanda and then Guinea. Therefore, Guinea now sees that, oh, we are looking for Traoré, and Traoré is now in Rwanda. Then Rwanda, please, we want Traoré. Let us go back into our law of extradition pact between the two of us. Release him to me. Is that what the UK is saying? UK, Germany, other countries of the world, including United States and Ghana, have signed as part of human rights and part of the Charter Protocols Agreement with the United Nations that asylum, whether the person is telling the truth or not, whether economic or political or whether military or whichever, you must hear the person out, grant them a place to stay. And that is what Canada has been doing as an immigrant city or country. Let us hear you out. 3 years we are going to investigate your case. If otherwise, then we bring you back that you don't have an issue. Now UK is putting all of them. Are they going to select African asylum seekers and bring them to Rwanda? Or they are seeking all over? Then let's just not make mistake. The biggest asylum seekers in UK are not the Africans. The Pakistanians are there. Are you getting me? Yeah. The Indians, and most of them are still asylum seekers in UK. What about other countries of the world? What about the Asians? What about Arabian countries, the Arabian Peninsula? UK that has a lot of, let's say, terrorist asylum seekers lodging in UK. Are we saying that yes, Africans are free by thinking and taking into consideration that we don't have that kind of sophisticated security to control them more or less vis-a-vis? If they are in Rwanda, Rwanda is not, like you made mention, Rwanda is still, they don't have democracy, they have economic democracy.
These issues have been raised.
They have economic democracy. Right. He has done well, he has done his country, he has managed well. For me, yes, he has stayed in power, but he hasn't got the opposition.
Well, so, let me just mention, just to state the fact that the Supreme Court raised 3 main issues regarding this, the country's poor human rights record, you know, and they also mentioned the presence of serious and systematic defects in its asylum processing, and that's under a similar agreement with Israel. Rwanda removed asylum seekers to countries of origin. So these asylum seekers, they are countries of origin, which violates, you know, the principle of this agreement.
European Union, Italy, and then Greece, and then Spain, Lampedusa in Italy, Gran Canaria in Spain, and then also Athens in Greece. These countries have been the entry point of the mostly asylum seekers from the North Africa, that is from West all over, as we know. Now, when Italians started, they tried to imprison or put them in detention. It is not Italy standing on you that this is Italian security, sovereignty, and sovereign, blah, blah, blah. No. European Union went in and stepped in that you cannot do that. Allow them. And the European Union will take decisions which countries will decide to absorb or take some of them. In 1992, when there was a breakaway Republic of Yugoslavia, when Slovenia, Dubrovnik, Sarajevo, Croatia, how do we call it, Albania, Kosovo, Tirana, all these were breaking away in 1991-92 after the Yugoslavian war. The first entry was Germany. The second entry or the first entry was Austria. That had border in Magdeburg with Graz. So when all these people have entered, they entered to other destinations of the European Union. Swiss decided they have to take them. Even though they were not part of the European Union, but all of them decided to take the numbers. Here we are today. So UK, you cannot take refugees. And then you take the refugees. You are telling me now that if I'm a, let's say, I'm a perceived or I'm an asylum seeker. Now I fly to London. I fold my arms. London sees me in an aircraft and bring me to Rwanda. What next? Are you getting me? What are they going to do in Rwanda?
Harriet, you see, what is striking about this? You know, when the war broke out between Russia and Ukraine, or when Russia invaded Ukraine, you know, UK and other Western countries were accepting refugees from Ukraine willingly, all over. They are begging families, if you agree to accommodate Ukrainian family, they give you some financial reward. They were doing that. So it raises the question, you are willing to take these people, yet people who are seeking asylum for one reason or another, you are not willing to take them. So what's the UK's excuse for doing that? You are willing to take refugees, and you took refugees from Syria.
Many of them
are in the UK.
And then Ukraine.
The Ukrainian refugees.
So you are taking all of them.
These ones you can accept them, but people coming mostly from Africa,
and mostly your colonial countries.
You are sending them to. It doesn't add up. If UK were to say that, look, we are saturated in terms of population, we can't take anybody, they should cut across. It should be uniform, but you can't be taking some people willingly and others you are sending them to a third country. And that's what I'm saying, that there are historical and new colonial tendencies in this arrangement. You understand?
Right. It's money involved.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so let's talk about the incentive. Let's talk about the money.
The incentives are always there. There are a lot of incentives. Don't forget that I myself sitting here, I've been a mission translator. I've been translated at Transkirchen, the biggest refugee camp in Austria, in the 90s. I've been a translator in Asylum in Germany, in Chemnitz and Leipzig. So when you talk about refugee issues and refugee understanding of some of these things, countries do not just because they have money to spend. Of course, nobody declares how much comes into the country in terms of benefits, but no country will just sit up and then, if you are accepting refugees, they are what comes with it. But then on the flip side, some governments in Europe, especially the far right, or the center left or the center right parties, for instance, they do that to play politics, because the point is that a country like Syria, a country like Ukraine, that has a special need or a special issue of indeed a genuine asylum applications are granted. If they are granted into the system, refugee granted, asylum granted, it takes them 3 years for them to be a national or take them to be a citizen of that country. What is it seeking to do? What it means is that if it is the, let's say in the case of Germany, is the CDU or SPD, in the case of UK, is the Labour Party or Conservative Party that really took these refugees. If within a matter, you've taken about almost close to about 200, 300,000 refugees. And then they are all becoming nationals of that country in 3 years. Where are they? The allegiance with the party that gave them the passport and the asylum status. So they use that to play politics. Stephen Harper did it in Canada, and Justin Trudeau is doing that, and it's all over like that. America played the same politics, who allowed the Latinos, the Mexicanos to enter. So during the time that they become citizens of the United States, if it is how do you call it, American Republican, all of them, they say that, okay, it's Republican that granted. Till today, Ghanaians that having asylum, and they have the asylum granted and nationality, citizenship granted, under Reagan, most of them will say that the allegiance or they have a soft spot for Republican, regardless of the fact. So it is the these are the some of the external benefits or incentives, apart from the economic incentive, the money that the United Nations and the World Refugee Fund give to them and other donor countries.
All right. And speaking about issues that concern Africa, the exploitation of our continent, the minerals and all of that, we want to be liberated economically, not just politically. Farouk, I'll start with you. Whether you saw President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, William Ruto, and
Cyril
Ramaphosa.
Beautiful. Let's applaud Ghana for all the time. We are the first African country to speak on the UNGA, UN General Assembly, so it's very good. The English very clear. Ruto William, who's a friend, very nice English. Cyril Ramaphosa, the same thing. The business is always the same. The complaint is always the same. The talk is always the same. You went there as a country, we went there as Africans. So here they are speaking Africa. Then we are asking that 1963, the agenda of the Africans putting the African continent together and called something called OAU. And then leading that to 2002 made it African Union, which in any case the name doesn't change anything. What have been the stand? Is that not the same thing, blaming colonization, Afroism, colonizing, and then etc. neo-colonizing? It is the same complaint that comes on the UNGA, UN General Assembly. It's the same thing. Whether being exploited, being cheated, being etc. How far have we packaged ourselves as a continent, as one unified front, that to today we are complaining, whereas countries, even in the western of Europe, Germany that had a part called the East Germany in 1990 didn't know how to use WC, talk less of how to flash WC. And today it's one of the it is beautiful and more developed than the West. Talk less of talking about a country like Romania, that any Romanian seen in Europe in the 90s was seen as a refugee. Bulgarian was a refugee. Poland was a refugee. Hungarians were refugees. Anybody you met in Europe at the time in the just 90s, they didn't have anything called independence, talk less of having anything of freedom, liberty, economic liberty. Today, they joined a bloc called European Union. So now Estonia can say that yes, we've also arrived. Lithuania can say I've arrived. Slovenia that went into war have arrived. Croatia beautifully positioned and beautifully cleared with economic prosperity. So these individual countries come to the same podium with you. They are not complaining. Our leaders are complaining. about how many countries, 56 countries, because collectively, I even always have my challenge that we allow the English presidents only to speak. That's why the French, they warn them that when you come to UN General Assembly, they don't call Benin president to speak, they don't call Togo president to speak, they don't call Mauritania president. It's always either Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, or Kenya. C'est tout. That's all. So now, they are speaking for Africa. If we are speaking for Africa, then go back and sit at the African Union. You have the Congress of the body. Then you should now interface. Because when it comes to anything that goes through the United Nations, either selecting Secretary General for UNICEF, UNHCR, etc., the same Africans go out there and vote for them. Then they come back to sit and complain. What are we complaining about? How long do we have to go through this? If smaller countries of Europe today has economic prosperity, you do have the resources. You have the mineral resources. Your population is bigger than them. Ghana population of 35 million is bigger than Luxembourg, Belgium, and then Holland combined. Yet you go to them and borrow. It's the same thing like Gambia, it's the same thing like other countries. But let's find out, Harriet, if any African country has ever benefited from one African country in terms of loan or facility or grant. Let's see when Ghana gave credit to Togo. And I've said and I've mentioned that if we have a strong African Union that we are all propagating for emancipation, economic emancipation, freedom, etc. Ghana was looking for $3 billion. Where was the African Union? So what is all this talk show about?
We went to the IMF.
You went to the IMF. So Nigeria hasn't got 3 billion. South Africa, Johannesburg, Joburg, their budget is more than $3 billion. It's more than $15 to $20 billion. It's even far less. So they couldn't have called. Ramaphosa couldn't call Nana Adodankwa Akufo-Addo that please don't take your plate and bow and go to IMF. Please come here as a brother. So we don't have an African Union that has put a fund. That fund is for countries in distress. Whereas Europe, when Greece were in distress, Germany took care and paid their salary for 6 uninterrupted months with their excess budget. So if all this, all the time, this is it's a déjà vu. We've had this history. We were taught in school, Africans and the whites, the supremacy, imperialism. Is that today that we're listening to all this?
I'm thinking that it is refreshing to find them
it's always
with
refreshing.
One collective voice.
You try to get it because Hattie, it is not just a talk show. We're talking about mathematics and accountability and accounting, etc. here. That the African leaders all the time, when it comes to fine speeches, you will get to know that the European Union, the superpowers, or you're talking about the world powers, America, their speeches are very short. The UK's, their speeches at the UNGA, United Nations General Assembly, very short. The Australian is straight to the point. African leader comes descriptive, very grammatized, well grammar, either French or English, and then they roll it out. They sit back comfortably and listen. Let's talk which continent has more of the blocks in the United Nations General Assembly. It's not the African countries. You have 56. In there. So if you have 56 in there and you are not a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, so if America stands as 1, United Kingdom stands as 1, France, China, Russia, and now India and Anko are pushing agenda also to be part. I would have wished and thought that the African Union would have come out and said that we are also a superpower because we are 56 countries. We will not send Ghana to go and sit there for only 2 years. We will not send Dakar or we will not send Banjul to go and sit there. Why African Union have not put themselves together? Then Nanado, then Ruto, then Ramaphosa will be dealing with the subject that now we are also choosing one African Union to have a permanent representative on the UN General Assembly. Have they espoused that? Is that what they've discussed? They haven't done any of that. You always bring a Sierra Leone and there would be only 1 month or 3 months or 2 months that UN General Assembly, United Nations Security Council, Ghana chairs the United Nations Security Council. When they made the speech over the same Israel and Palestine, when they said that Israelis should allow Palestine to have their country, what happened at the UN Security Council? Israel attacked Ghana, they came to Ghana and then opposed. But if it was an African Union speaking with one voice and a permanent member of the UN Security Council, we cannot speak and talk about these subjects that they are raising. Either than that, Ghana's trouble is not Malaysia, is not Kenya's trouble. Ghana's issue is not what maybe Chad is looking at it. Ghana's issue is not Eritrea, what we are looking at it. We are completely divided countries, divided economies, divided continent. We are not what we think we believe we are. It is not true. On paper, we have everything beautiful, but naturally in practicality, it's completely zero. All these talk shows will end nowhere. The Western, they haven't heard anything. Go and put your house in order and come back and let's debate. You can't come with a plate and then be coming to call the shots.
You call it talk show.
It's a talk show.
Interesting. Al Wahab. Farouk.
Yes, very nice.
So
here we are.
What do you think about this
move
by
it is a fine
African countries?
Yes.
Ghana recently also made the announcement, courtesy our president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, that beginning this year we are going to open our borders to the rest of the African countries.
Very nice.
You know, as part of the free movements, goods, and all of that. What do you make of this?
There are three subjects that have been discussed since the inception and the opening and the beginning, the foundation and formation of the African Union. Prior to that, OAU, when Haile Selassie was the president, and then followed by Kwame Nkrumah, already the originator of the African Union, was even not the first. So he was selfless on that score. So from day one, this free African movement or free movement of people on the continent of Africa, it was not today. It was established. Leading to that, developed, time went on up to 2002, when it was renamed African Union, leaving the OAU. The African Union in Durban. At that time, President Thabo Mbeki, President Kufuor, Muammar al-Gaddafi, and then also Abdul Wahab, and then also Obasanjo, Festus Mogae, and then all of them. That was the main topical issue. Gaddafi went further to say that it is not even enough for us to use individual passport called the Ghana passport, but rather we should have what is called African Union passport. And that he even voluntarily said he will use Libyans' excess resources to fund and funding that kind of a project. So all Africa must use one passport. What does it mean? They did three things. Not only the free movement as they are trying to say. Right of establishment of enterprises, business and corporations, cooperatives, etc. And then also there should be a third, right of residence. Right of residence means that a Ghanaian holding a Ghana passport can go to Nigeria. I am still an African, have access to establish my own business, my enterprise, and start to trade. Then one can also go to Nigeria that have decided to come and live in Nigeria because I like the women of Nigeria. They are fine women, or like Ghanaian, I want to live here and marry here. So right of residence should not be a difficult thing. What do we see, and here do we see? What do we see here? What they are talking about, announcing the free movement, Ghana has opened the door. Yes, bingo, we've done our part. Ghana has done well. But let us go into the nitty-gritty. The fact that you are opening them to come to travel through, to come and do tourism, or to come and tour, or to swipe and go through. No. People go to countries based on interest. What are the interests? Tourism interests, marital interests, business interests, etc. So coming in here to spend 90 days, is that what we are talking about? No. I may be tempted to live in the country. What next? That is where African Union and all this talk falls short. Because what? I want to live here. I don't have right of residence. I have free movement to pass through. Is that what we need? No. European Union has shown us the way, even though we are older than them. That for them is not only free movement traveling from Andorra to Petersburg, but rather be able to enter any territorial zones of the European Union and be able to apply to stay. Right of residence, to establish business, right of establishment, and then also to have free movement. Is that not it? So if you're in Paris and you want to go as far as to Tebere in Spain, you don't have any police barrier on the way anywhere that they stop you, that you are Belgian citizen, drop, etc. This African Union and free movement that we're talking about, we are happy talking about visa or free visa. It is even not true. The reason is that Egypt, they have failed to sign their part. Algeria, Morocco, Libya, other countries, more than 30 African countries, or let's say strictly about 25 countries
but
in
some
Africa.
African
Relax,
have started.
relax. Yes, if they've started, what have they started? It brings us to a topic you don't want us to discuss. We have a beautiful topic of Ghana, South Africa, free movement called the visa waiver.
Right.
Visa waiver is 90 days. Is that all what? No. 90 days, South Africa to that extent, which was part where the free movement agreement was reached in Durban. Thabo Mbeki was the one sitting as a president at that time. When after that thing was signed, Ghana came back and allowed Africans, some Africans, except Eritrea, some countries, Chad, terrorists, maybe branded countries, cannot come to Ghana and access visa at the airport. But almost generally, everybody could apply for visa at the airport on entry. What do we see? Egypt embassy said, no, go to Egyptian embassy for them to screen you. Morocco does the same thing. What about South Africa? The policy was made, did not, until when? Until 2 months ago. And then what kind of visa waiver they have with Ghana? They did not. The international visa waiver is 90 days. If you want to live beyond that, as an African Union, we should talk about the right of residence or right of establishment. Is that what they are doing? South Africa went as far as hitting the Ghana, signing agreement of cumulative 90 days of visa waiver. What does it mean? Does it mean in diplomacy? It means that 90 days I should spread. If I go first time 10 days, 20 days, 10 days, and put all together, when it's 90 days, I don't have the right to come unless I go and apply. Is that what the free movement means? Is that what the waiver says? There is no waiver. Meaning that the Central African Republics, Cameroon, Gabon, Brazzaville, Bongi, Central African Republic, Brazzaville, Congo DR, and then coming all the way up to Angola. All of them, Rwanda, etc. Each one of them take visas to enter the other one. And we are talking about free movement. How does a Cameroonese take visa to Gabon? How can a Ghanaian take visa to enter Cameroon? Have they already eliminated that one? So the free waiver, it is some countries by countries that have agreed. Kenya relaxed theirs to Ghanaians. Ghanaians relaxed ours. And then etc. But more of the countries on the Africans, till today, they do not agree. Put the free movement aside as a visa waiver. What about the interblocks? Border, patrol, police, barrier. Whereas I should use my car and be able to drive from Accra to Lagos, the distance should not cover more than 5 hours. But I spend 11 to 12 to 16 hours. Why? Because even within my own country, Accra, by the time I reach Jerusalem Gate in Pram Pram, and then drive up to Aflao, from Aflao to Lakoji to Seme, to Badagry up to Lagos, you face more than 300 blocks. Is that a free movement? Then there's no free movement. So free movement, as the Europeans, they did what you could, a maintaining of free border, a maintaining free movement of people proper. Not telling me that there's a free movement, prof. But then, of course, when I sit in the car, Cote d'Ivoire police stops, sees any Ghana number plate. You have to drop. Everybody comes. Passport. Meanwhile, you've gone through immigration at no way. Stamped in already, legally. But they collect your passport and put it, custom officer sits on your passport and bring money before. Is that free movement? So for me, all these talk shows, I will still always hate the African Union and the interblocks. The blocks within the African Union, the Central Africans, the South African, the North and the West and the East African, the ECOWAS, etc. We are not doing enough. And if we do not do enough, it will also need help and support this AFTAC program or the project that they seek to do. It will not succeed. So African Union, the African countries must emulate the standards of what the Europeans have done. And if we are talking about free movement, it does not only restrict itself that only traveling through the country for 3 months. How many Africans have managed to go on to? There should be more. The 3 should be added as it was established. Free establishment and then also right of residence. That is what you are talking about. We are a united country.
Right. We have a long way to go, but we have to start from somewhere. So baby steps. I mean, I know you are talking out of passion because you want us to speed things up, and you know, in the Africa that we all aspire to have. So at the end of the day, it is good that we criticize ourselves and then we also find ways of moving forward and getting better. But so I'm wrapping up. But yesterday, let me mention something very nice happened, and I'm excited about it because one, I know that women are highly underrepresented in many, you know, areas. And so for me, when I see another woman climbing the ladder and, you know, persevering and giving her best, I really would like to be part of, you know, that space. And I'm talking about this with regard to our Foreign Affairs Minister, Honorable Shirley Ayokoboche's, who announced yesterday that she's been nominated by the President of Ghana. And so she announced her candidacy for the Commonwealth Secretary Generalship, right? And you were there.
Yes.
So that's some good news.
Yes.
You had the opportunity to interact briefly with her.
It was a great show. The lecture was very superb. I told her myself that she did a good lecture. And I pray that what she's really actually laid out, or what she rolled out, and then her speeches and lecture, let it be. And I believe that with the African Union collectively behind her, and then also back home, locally and domestic politics, the opposition, the biggest opposition party says that they're in support because, of course, she's a Ghanaian.
Right.
That is a good thing. I believe and I do hope that, yes, it is possible that she'll be able to be the successor of the Samuel person. So if she wins, then it will be Ghana wins.
All right.
But then if she wins, all things that she said yesterday, in fact, she should try and do it. Commonwealth is bleeding.
All right. So thank you so much, Farouk Al Wahab, international diplomatic consultant. Thank you so much for joining us. And Professor Lord Mawuko Yevuga, it is always a pleasure to have you on the show. We really appreciate your expertise on all the various subjects that we discussed on this show. My name is Harriet Nate, and it's always a pleasure to have you join us on this show. I look forward to seeing you same time.